Three things that describe my past are mental illness, growing up off of Georgia Avenue, and the go-go. Eva from the past was a very complicated person who learned how to love herself. Growing up off of Georgia Avenue, I had a lot of freedom. My mother was crisscross crazy, certifiable, as I would say. I want to compare my mother to people that you would see in the street. You see somebody in the street and they're just, they're walking up on you and they're cussing you out and acting like they want to fight you. That's how my mother was. And that's what I had to deal with every single day. My story, my story is growing up in a household with not just a mother that was mentally ill, but an older sister as well. I had 4 sisters and brothers, and we all lived in that same household together with those same 2 crazy people. I was at a point where I would be embarrassed if my mother would follow me to school. I didn't want anybody to see who she was. I was always hiding her. But then when I became a teenager, I used to bring 15 kids home and we would roll up in the door smoking weed because my house was the hang house. It was where everybody could be because my mother was crazy. So therefore, I'd walk in the door and I'd be like, "Hey, Mom, home." And she'd go, "Hi, baby." And everybody be like, "Well, where's your mother?" Like, "She under the dining room table." And they'd be like, "Well, why is she under there?" She's under the dining room table because she said the voices don't bother her as bad. It's peaceful under there. And we go down the basement, smoke weed, come back up, Mom gone, and hit the street. That's how my life was. My childhood has cut and scarred me deeply. It still bothers me to this day. I grew up at St. Elizabeth's. It was a normal thing. We lived up northwest, and my father had to work all the time, and he wasn't able to take my mother to the doctor. So we as kids had to catch the bus on Georgia Avenue, and we would have to ride for 2.5 hours to get to Southeast to St. Elizabeth's. My mother was crazy like a fox. She would slip into the doctor's office and wait to get her shot and come out and tell me that, she was finished. We would get back on the bus and ride for another 2.5 hours all the way back across town for the nurse to call and say, "Your mother didn't get her shot." So when I tell my father this, he would be like, "Oh, we gotta go back. You gotta take her back the next day." And we would do the same thing all over again. Being schizophrenic is a mental illness. It messes with your brain, the way you think, the way you act, and you're constantly hearing voices in your head. And she would constantly answer those voices in her head. Sometimes she wouldn't sleep for days at a time, hollering and screaming until she would lose her voice. But she was also, her intelligence was through the roof. She would sit and read the encyclopedia. So sometimes when I would come home and I would have homework, I would just simply ask my mother to help me because she was like a walking encyclopedia. So, it was good times and bad times, but it was a lot of bad. There was a point in my life where they came and took my mother out the house in a straitjacket. She was fighting, spitting, kicking, and she walked right past my brother, my father, and myself like she didn't know us. And that was heartbreaking for me because all the kids were outside, some of their parents, the neighbors, and everybody was talking about us, and I hated to be talked about in a bad way. So it affects me still to this day. The good memories I had were getting up at 8 o'clock in the morning, getting on my bike, riding down Snake Hill. Rock Creek Park was my sanctuary. It was where we could hang out all day. We could go to the nature center, we could go to the zoo, we could walk the rocks in the water. I fell in the water one time and almost drowned. And, they brought me home soaking wet. My mother was like, "What did you all do to my daughter?" She ready to kill because they brought me home wet. But it was all fun. It was fun being able to have that freedom. But that freedom is what got me in trouble. I had to give up. I had to give up being on drugs. And believe it or not, that high on cocaine, it had me. And I had to give that up in order to be who I am today. Because it was my crutch, and it was a crutch that I didn't need. And sometimes when you think you need a drug to help you do whatever, it was like I never left home without it. I'd always have a gram of coke in my purse because I felt that I needed that to get through the day, but I found out that I didn't. Me being on drugs was not caused by the pain from my past. Me being on drugs was trying to be with my ex-husband when he was living with another woman the same time he was living with me. She was pregnant. I was pregnant at the same time. He was on that pipe, and I just wanted to be with him. So, when you're getting high like that, you always want a partner, because that partner is going to help you put in another $5 or, make it happen. And that's what he did. He drew me in because he needed somebody else to help him get high. If I could go back in my past to make my mother's and my relationship be better, it would be that she wouldn't have been sick. It would be that she wasn't mentally ill. It would be that she wasn't cussing out all the neighbors and, following me to school and embarrassing me. And I just wanted a normal life with a regular mother like my friends had. Having a mother with mental illness is just rough. The biggest misconception of schizophrenia is that it can't be controlled. I think that it takes time to find the right medication, something that isn't to an extreme. Everything with her was an extreme. She either slept all day or, it would wear off and she would start mumbling and talking to the voices again. They never found that right balance for her. And I'm sure that mental illness has come a long way, with what they do with people. But in the beginning, they were giving my mother shock treatment. And then they went from shock treatment to the Thorazine, and, so it was never the right balance. Even when she got the time release shot, it was still hard. We could tell when it was wearing off, and it was, it was trying for the family. I'm sure it was trying for her. It took a toll on her body. I self-healed through my pain when my sister told me that I had a problem with the drugs and that I needed to go in rehab. I looked at her and I cried, and I knew that was my wake-up call. And I walked away from it. Most people that have been on the pipe smoking coke, they can't just walk away. You need help. But it just goes to show you who I am, because I was able to do that. Eva is a survivor. Eva is someone that has been through the ups and downs of life, and I've been down more than I've been up, but I've survived it all. And I'm now the proud grandmother of 2 grandchildren, and I did something for them that I didn't think I could do. I used to cuss like a sailor, and when they were born, I said, I gotta stop this. I said, because they're gonna blame me for these kids cussing, and I wasn't gonna let that happen. Music transformed my life when I was 4 years old. My brother used to sneak me into the Howard Theater because he was dealing with one of the members of the Jewels. And I sat on the front row at 4, and it's the first time I got to see Smokey Robinson and the Miracles. And that started my love affair with music, and it's still going. My children and my grandchildren, they're my motivation. They keep me going. I no longer have my parents here, but I still got my siblings, and they all want to see me do well. My why, I'm here to make sure that my dreams come true. I've written 2 books, Crazy Is As Crazy Does, Part 1 and Part 2, and I never thought I would be able to do it. But it turned out that the books were therapy for me. The therapy that I didn't go get, that I should have been, sitting in a doctor's office, laying on the couch, trying to figure out my life, I was able to do it through the books. I cried, I walked away, I went back, I put them down, said I didn't want to do this anymore. But then I decided I wanted to save lives through my books. I think the advice that I would give women about turning their pain into purpose is to learn to love yourself more than you love anyone else. You have to put yourself first, and through that, you can help others. Because when you love yourself, it's like you're like a bright light. You just, you walk around, your smile is not forced, it's something that comes natural, and people are drawn to you because they can tell that you love yourself. My unknown and future self is going to be successful, living that Hollywood life, and being able to walk that red carpet because my film is going to be viewed by the whole world. I've definitely found peace with my past. I had to pray on it a lot. I had to cry through it, but I've let it all go. Not maybe in July, I broke up with a man that I had been with for 30 years, but he didn't believe in my dream. He wasn't supporting me, and I had to step away because I can't have anybody holding me back from what I'm trying to do. My Shiro superpower is me. I think I always say, and people may laugh, but crazy is my superpower. That's what makes me get up and keep going each and every day. And it makes me be and want to continue to be a survivor. Checking the box to success is me getting my books to film. That's success for me. And it being, a relatable story that we can say comes from DC. It's a DC story. 3 things that describe Eva are: I'm confident, I'm loyal, and I'm a survivor. I can be found on Instagram at Talking Parrot Media. I have a website where you can buy my books, and it's www.talkingparrotmedia.com. You can also email me at eva.pinkney118@gmail.com. If you want to know more about my life, you can buy my books, Crazy as This Crazy Does, Part 1 and Part 2. I'm here behind the scenes with KB.